retreat. Ludi looked at Boosie and saw the clear worry for his own fate. Ludi said, "You must retreat as I promised." Boosie looked at Ludi, surprised. "What about you?" Ludi replied, "I have a backup plan." "Don't worry, just go." Boosie felt a pang of sadness at Ludi's loyalty. Even at this moment, Ludi had a plan and was thinking about Boosie's life. Boosie hesitated, but Ludi just smiled. "Trust me, Boosie. You are the leader of the cunning hyenas. You need to live to rebuild from the ground up. I will hold them off long enough for you to escape." Boosie looked at Ludi one more time, feeling the determination and loyalty in his comrade's eyes. Finally, Boosie and some of his men slipped into a secret tunnel and escaped, hearts heavy but knowing that Ludi's decision was for the greater good of the gang. Ludi stood alone in the crumbling fortress, preparing for the final confrontation with Silverback and the 10 great assassins. He knew he might not survive, but his loyalty to Boosie and his love for the cunning hyenas kept him steadfast. The final stand. Ludi took a deep breath, gathering his resolve. He knew that every second he delayed Silverback and his men was a second closer to Boosie's escape. The sounds of approaching footsteps echoed through the crumbling corridors, a grim reminder of the unstoppable force heading his way. Preparation. Ludi glanced around, making quick mental notes of his surroundings. He had a few traps left in place, and he knew the layout better than anyone. As Silverback and his assassins closed in, Ludi prepared himself for the inevitable clash. He tightened the straps on his armor, checked his weapons, and took one last look at the fortress he had so painstakingly built. The clash. Silverback and his men entered the main chamber where Ludi awaited. There was no hesitation in their movements. They had come to finish what they started. But Ludi stood tall, ready to face them. The final move. As Silverback and the 10 great assassins neared Ludi, suddenly 20 armed hyenas of the cunning hyenas emerged, forming a barricade in front of Ludi. They unleashed a hail of deadly bullets towards Silverback and the 10 great assassins. Silverback was taken aback by this final move of the cunning hyenas, but quickly ordered all members to use their shields to block the barrage. The 9 members of the 10 great assassins in the front row hastily raised their shields to fend off the bullets, while Silverback stood in the back row. Jackal swiftly took his iron cards and flung them towards the hyenas, the final defense line of the cunning hyenas. Falcon did the same, shooting arrows with precision. The arrows and iron cards pierced the necks of the hyenas, targeting the spots where their armor could not protect. One by one, the hyenas fell, writhing in agony before succumbing to their wounds. The shield of Silverback. Suddenly from behind, Silverback shouted, "Move aside." The 9 members of the 10 great assassins quickly stepped away, and Silverback summoned all his internal power to hurl his shield towards the hyenas. The shield flew like a bolt of lightning, striking down 5 hyenas in an instant. But Silverback was not finished. He swiftly threw sharp knives towards the remaining hyenas, then unsheathed his saber and launched into a furious whirlwind of slashes. Without uttering a single word, Silverback attacked the hyenas relentlessly, even as bullets continued to fly towards him. The bullets clashed against Silverback's armor, creating a hellish cacophony of metallic impacts. Meanwhile, Jackal and Falcon continued their assault on the surviving hyenas. Silverback's deadly blade sought out the necks of his enemies with lethal precision. Each slash was calculated and devastating, leaving no hyena standing. The power of the shield hurled by Silverback was immense. It was more than just a piece of metal, it was an extension of his fierce will and unmatched strength. The shield cut through the air with incredible speed, delivering a crushing blow that shattered the defenses of the hyenas. It plowed through them with such force that the sound of their bodies hitting the ground was almost drowned out by the chaos of the ongoing battle. In the midst of this, Silverback's focus remained unbroken. His strikes were unyielding, his movements fluid and precise. The hyena's desperate gunfire clanged off his armor, unable to pierce the formidable steel protecting him. Each clash of bullet against armor sounded like the tolling of a bell, a death knell for the hyenas. Jackal and Falcon's continued onslaught ensured that the remaining hyenas could not regroup. Jackal's iron cards and Falcon's arrows found their marks, exploiting the vulnerabilities in the hyena's armor. The battlefield was a storm of motion and sound, with Silverback at its center, a force of unstoppable destruction. In a matter of moments, the last of the hyenas fell. Silverback's sword, dripping with blood, was a testament to his lethal efficiency. The ground was littered with the lifeless bodies of the hyenas, their final stand crushed by the overwhelming might of the 10 great assassins. Not a single hyena survived. Silverback's unparalleled strength and the unyielding resolve of his comrades had obliterated the last line of defense. The path to Ludi lay open, the echoes of the fierce battle fading into a chilling silence. The questions. As Silverback swung his saber and hurled his knives, Ludi couldn't help but ponder, no, this isn't right. This isn't right at all. When the last hyena fell, Ludi looked directly into Silverback's eyes and said, "Your saber work is incredibly powerful. But if you used a sword, you'd fully unleash your potential. I'm certain you're meant to wield a sword, not a saber." Silverback froze in his tracks, surprised. "I don't understand. I've never used a sword. My master gave me this saber, and I use it." Ludi continued, "Let me guess. Your master was Tammy." Silverback appeared confused. "Who is Tammy?" "I only know Eagle. Every martial skill I possess was taught by Eagle." Ludi smiled. "I've observed very carefully the cold aura emanating from your saber as you swung it to slay the hyenas. There's no swordsmanship on Earth that works like that except for the Ice Storm sword technique passed down to Tammy by his master." Silverback felt a ringing in his ears, unable to comprehend what Ludi was saying. Ludi continued, "Tammy mastered 4 supreme techniques: Fire Dragon Fist, Ice Storm Sword, Shadow Cloud Kick, and Silver Moonlight. The knives you throw undoubtedly come from Silver Moonlight. But it's strange because those who learn Silver Moonlight typically use sharp steel bars as their weapons." Questions began to swirl in Silverback's mind, with no answers in sight. Ludi went on, "You must have learned the Fire Dragon Fist. Let me see how the strength of Fire Dragon Fist compares against my Snake Fist." With that, Ludi pulled out 2 iron gloves and put them on. Silverback's thoughts were a maelstrom of uncertainty and surprise at Ludi's words. Silverback's entire world seemed to tilt. Could it be true? Had he unknowingly been trained in techniques from a master he had never heard of? The very foundations of his identity wavered as he recalled every moment of his training with Eagle, trying to reconcile Ludi's revelations with his reality. Each word from Ludi struck Silverback with the force of a hammer, leaving him grappling with an avalanche of doubt. He wondered if his entire understanding of his abilities was fundamentally flawed. Could it be that his master, Eagle, had imparted knowledge that was not his own? The very skills that had made him formidable now seemed like a puzzle with missing pieces. As Ludi prepared to test his Snake Fist against Silverback's Fire Dragon Fist, Silverback felt an overwhelming sense of apprehension. The certainty with which he had always fought was replaced with a gnawing uncertainty. Cobra's assault. As Silverback was lost in his thoughts, Cobra suddenly leaped over him from behind. "Let me test his Snake Fist. I've been waiting for this day for a long time," Cobra declared, brandishing his sword and launching an attack on Ludi. The battlefield fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. Cobra moved with incredible speed, his blade slicing through the air with a precision that left shimmering trails in its wake. His strikes were a blur of motion, each one a masterpiece of deadly grace. Ludi, however, seemed almost serene amidst the chaos. He did not attack but instead focused on defense, his movements fluid and calculated. Each step he took was a dance, effortlessly evading Cobra's strikes. His eyes never left Cobra's form, studying every nuance of his technique with an almost academic interest. Cobra's sword flashed again and again, but Ludi's responses were impeccable. He twisted and turned, his body flowing like water around the incoming strikes. His arms moved with the elegance of a snake, deflecting and redirecting Cobra's blade with the slightest touch. The clash of steel against steel rang out, but Ludi's composure remained unbroken. As the battle wore on, it became clear that Ludi was testing Cobra as much as Cobra was testing him. He watched each strike with keen interest, noting the strengths and weaknesses of Cobra's technique. Despite the ferocity of Cobra's assault, Ludi remained untouched, his mastery of Snake Fist evident in every motion. Cobra's frustration began to show. He pushed harder, his attacks becoming more aggressive, but this only seemed to make Ludi's defense even more impressive. Each parry and dodge was a testament to his years of disciplined training and deep understanding of his art. In the midst of this dance of death, Ludi spoke, his voice calm and steady. "Your technique is impressive, Cobra, but you rely too much on aggression. Snake Fist is about balance and control." With these words, Ludi's movements shifted subtly. He began to guide Cobra's strikes away with greater ease, his touches becoming more precise. Cobra's blade seemed to move slower, as if caught in the rhythm of Ludi's defense. Realizing the futility of his assault, Cobra paused, breathing heavily. The two warriors stood facing each other, the tension between them palpable. Ludi remained calm, his gaze unwavering. "You have great potential, Cobra," Ludi said, lowering his hands. "But you must learn to master yourself before you can truly master the art." The battlefield, which had been frozen in the intensity of their duel, slowly came back to life. The onlookers, who had been captivated by the beauty of the combat, began to murmur amongst themselves. Cobra, humbled but not defeated, nodded in acknowledgement of Ludi's words. He knew that this encounter was just the beginning, and that the path to true mastery lay ahead. Jade sword. Cobra moved with grace, his sword slicing through the air in fluid arcs. Each strike seemed to shimmer with precision, a testament to his dedication to the Jade sword technique. As he executed a particularly elegant flourish, Ludi observed with a critical eye. "Beautiful swordplay, but ineffective," Ludi remarked. "Practice for another 10 years, and then come find me." Cobra, his pride stung, gritted his teeth and attacked with renewed vigor. His movements became faster and more aggressive, but Ludi remained unperturbed. With his iron gloves, he parried Cobra's strikes effortlessly. "Your master, Sai, taught you the Jade sword, but you are far from mastering it like he has," Ludi said, his voice calm and composed. "Allow me to point out your weaknesses." Cobra's eyes widened in astonishment. How did Ludi know his sword technique and the identity of his master? The realization of Ludi's extensive knowledge left Cobra both impressed and infuriated. Determined to prove himself, Cobra launched a series of fierce attacks. But Ludi, with the agility of a serpent, deftly blocked each strike. He transitioned from defense to offense in a heartbeat, his snake fist technique executed with lightning speed. His fists and strikes were a blur, each movement precise and deadly. Cobra barely managed to parry Ludi's relentless onslaught, his sword meeting the iron fists in a desperate bid to keep up. The speed and intensity of Ludi's attacks left Cobra struggling to maintain his defense. Suddenly, Ludi spun around, delivering a powerful punch to Cobra's side. The force of the blow sent Cobra stumbling back 3 steps, blood dripping from the corner of his mouth. Ludi's eyes were cold and calculating as he spoke. "You attack with great strength, but your flank is exposed." The battle continued, with Cobra pushing forward, determined to regain the upper hand. His strikes were wild and aggressive, fueled by his anger and frustration. But Ludi's movements were fluid and controlled, each attack perfectly timed to exploit Cobra's weaknesses. Ludi's iron fists connected with Cobra's body, each blow landing with precision and power. Cobra could feel the strength draining from his limbs as he struggled to keep up with Ludi's relentless assault. The iron fists of Ludi became a blur, each punch and strike connecting with Cobra's sword or body. Cobra tried to adjust his stance, attempting to cover his exposed side, but Ludi was too quick. His movements were like those of a snake, fluid and unpredictable. Cobra swung his sword in a wide arc, aiming to catch Ludi off guard, but Ludi sidestepped effortlessly. He delivered a series of rapid punches, forcing Cobra to retreat further. The speed and precision of Ludi's snake fist were overwhelming, each strike designed to exploit a flaw in Cobra's defense. With a swift movement, Ludi closed the distance between them, delivering a powerful palm strike to Cobra's chest. Cobra felt the impact resonate through his body, causing him to stagger backward, struggling to maintain his footing. You have learned much from Saisai, but you lack the refinement and mastery required to wield the Jade-Do sword effectively, Ludi said, his tone almost pitying. Your technique is beautiful, but it is not enough to defeat me. Cobra, breathing heavily, knew that Ludi was right. Despite his best efforts, he was no match for Ludi's superior skill and knowledge. Each of Ludi's attacks was precise and calculated, leaving Cobra with little room to counter. In a final desperate attempt, Cobra lunged forward, his sword aimed at Ludi's heart. But Ludi, anticipating the move, sidestepped and delivered a crushing blow to Cobra's exposed flank. The impact drove the air from Cobra's lungs, and he collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath. Strength alone is not enough, Ludi said, looking down at Cobra. True mastery requires understanding and wisdom. Remember this. Cobra lay on the ground, his pride shattered, but his respect for Ludi deepened. He realized that he had much to learn and that true mastery was still far beyond his reach. The failure of Cobra. Ludi spoke calmly, his voice carrying a sense of finality. If you continue to fight me, you may lose your life. The pride and honor of a warrior wouldn't allow Cobra to back down. His eyes burned with determination as he raised his sword once more, refusing to yield. Cobra's sword danced in the air, each movement fluid and precise, as he launched another attack on Ludi. Ludi's eyes followed Cobra's every move, anticipating his strikes with ease. With his iron fists raised in readiness, Ludi parried Cobra's sword strikes, each clash resonating with the sound of metal against metal. Cobra's attacks were relentless, but Ludi's defense was impenetrable. As the battle raged on, Cobra's frustration grew. He poured all his strength into his swordplay, hoping to find a weakness in Ludi's defense. But Ludi's snake fist technique was flawless, his movements so swift and precise that Cobra found himself constantly on the defensive. Your tenacity is admirable, Ludi remarked, deflecting another of Cobra's strikes. But tenacity alone will not save you. With a swift motion, Ludi shifted from defense to offense, his fists moving like lightning. He struck at Cobra with a series of rapid blows, each one aimed at a vulnerable spot. Cobra struggled to keep up, his sword barely managing to deflect the onslaught. In a desperate attempt to regain control, Cobra lunged forward, his sword aimed at Ludi's chest. But Ludi sidestepped the attack with ease, his iron fist darting forward to deliver a crushing blow to Cobra's midsection. Cobra gasped in pain, stumbling backward. Ludi saw his opportunity and capitalized on it. He drew back his fist, focusing his energy, and launched a powerful snake fist strike directly at Cobra's chest. The impact was devastating, sending Cobra flying through the air. He hit the ground hard, rolling to a stop with a pained groan. Cobra lay on the ground, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He tried to rise, but his body refused to obey. The pain was overwhelming, and his vision blurred. You fought bravely, Ludi said, standing over Cobra. But bravery alone is not enough to defeat me. Cobra coughed, blood splattering on the ground. His pride and honor as a warrior had driven him to continue fighting, but now he realized the futility of his efforts. Ludi's skill and experience were far beyond his own. With a final, shuddering breath, Cobra collapsed, unable to continue the fight. His body lay still, the battle lost. Ludi looked down at his fallen opponent, a mixture of respect and pity in his eyes. You have much to learn, Cobra. May this defeat teach you the value of wisdom over pride. Two greatest warriors. Silverback shouted, his voice echoing through the room. Cobra, stop the fight. You are no match for him. He swung his sword, attacking Ludi with a ferocious intensity. Ludi, without a moment's hesitation, raised his iron fists to block Silverback's descending blade. As the sword collided with the iron fists, sparks flew, illuminating the room with a brief, fiery glow. Ludi thought to himself, Silverback, I know who you are. You are the strongest in the gang world. It is an honor to have the opportunity to fight you, one-on-one. The clash between Ludi and Silverback was immediate and intense. Both warriors exhibited unparalleled skill and strength, each movement precise and calculated. Silverback's saber strikes were powerful and swift, each blow delivered with deadly intent. Ludi, with his iron fists, blocked and countered with equal ferocity, his snake fist technique a perfect match for Silverback's relentless assault. Silverback stepped back for a moment, sizing up his opponent. He had heard of Ludi's prowess and knew this would be no ordinary battle. With a determined look, he launched another attack, his blade slicing through the air with a deadly whistling sound. Ludi parried the blow, his iron fists meeting the blade with a resounding clang. The two combatants moved with incredible speed and agility, their forms a blur of motion as they engaged in a deadly dance. Silverback's saber was an extension of his will, striking with precision and power. Ludi's iron fists were unyielding, each block and counterattack executed with impeccable timing. Silverback aimed a powerful horizontal slash at Ludi's midsection, but Ludi twisted his body, evading the strike by a hair's breadth. In a fluid motion, he delivered a quick jab to Silverback's side, forcing him to step back and reassess. The brief respite allowed both warriors to catch their breath, their eyes locked in a silent challenge. "You are indeed formidable, Silverback," Ludi said, his voice calm and measured. "But do not think for a moment that I will fall easily." Silverback smirked, wiping a bead of sweat from his brow. "I wouldn't have it any other way, Ludi. Let's see what you're truly capable of." The fight resumed with renewed intensity. Silverback's saber flashed in the dim light, each strike faster and more forceful than the last. Ludi's iron fists moved like lightning, intercepting the blade and countering with precision strikes aimed at Silverback's vital points. The sound of clashing metal echoed through the room, a testament to the ferocity of their battle. Silverback executed a series of rapid thrusts, each one aimed at breaking through Ludi's defenses. Ludi responded with a combination of parries and counterattacks, his fists moving in a blur as he deflected the blows and struck back with deadly accuracy. In the midst of their clash, Silverback feinted a high strike and then swung low, aiming to catch Ludi off guard. But Ludi anticipated the move, raising his leg to block the strike and using the momentum to deliver a spinning back fist that connected with Silverback's jaw. Silverback staggered, but quickly regained his footing, a fierce determination burning in his eyes. The room around them seemed to fade away as the two warriors focused solely on each other. Every movement was a calculated risk, every strike a potential game-changer. Silverback aimed a powerful overhead strike, but Ludi sidestepped and delivered a crushing blow to Silverback's ribs. The impact forced Silverback to his knees, but he quickly rolled away and sprang back to his feet, ready for more. "Impressive," Silverback admitted, breathing heavily. "You're the first to bring me to my knees in a long time." Ludi nodded, acknowledging the compliment. "And you, Silverback, are the first to withstand my snake fist for this long." Their exchange of words was brief, and the battle resumed with even greater ferocity. Silverback's saber danced through the air, a whirlwind of steel, while Ludi's iron fist struck with the precision and speed of a serpent. The two warriors pushed each other to their limits, each seeking to find and exploit a weakness in the other's defense. Silverback, sensing an opportunity, launched a flurry of attacks aimed at overwhelming Ludi. His saber struck from every angle, a relentless barrage that tested the limits of Ludi's defensive skills. But Ludi remained calm, his iron fists moving with incredible speed and accuracy to block and counter each strike. In a sudden burst of speed, Silverback closed the distance between them, his saber aiming for Ludi's heart. Ludi reacted with lightning-fast reflexes, deflecting the blade and delivering a powerful uppercut that sent Silverback reeling. Seizing the moment, Ludi pressed the attack, his fists a blur as he rained blows upon his opponent. Silverback fought back with equal determination, his saber clashing against Ludi's iron fists in a symphony of steel and iron. The two warriors were evenly matched, each strike met with a counter, each attack with a defense. The battle raged on, the room echoing with the sounds of their fierce combat. Despite the intense fatigue setting in, neither combatant showed any signs of giving up. Silverback's saber strikes became more precise, his movements more fluid as he adapted to Ludi's fighting style. Ludi's snake fist strikes grew even faster, his iron fists a blur of motion as he sought to find an opening in Silverback's defense. The two warriors continued their deadly dance, their movements a blur of speed and power. Silverback executed a rapid series of thrusts, each one aimed at breaking through Ludi's defenses. Ludi responded with a combination of parries and counterattacks, his fists moving in a blur as he deflected the blows and struck back with deadly accuracy. The powerful punch. Suddenly, Silverback dropped his sword to the ground and decided to fight Ludi barehanded. Ludi was taken aback. What the hell is he doing? He thought. Silverback lunged forward, throwing a powerful punch at Ludi. Ludi raised his ironclad hands to block it, and he could feel the force behind the strike. Silverback followed up with another punch aimed at Ludi's face, but Ludi managed to step back and evade it. Silverback unleashed a barrage of punches, catching Ludi off guard and landing a solid hit to his chest. Ludi, however, seemed unfazed. His Zeep steel armor, which he had meticulously designed, absorbed the impact. Silverback was astonished to see Ludi unaffected by his blow, and he felt a slight pain in his own hand. Realizing that Ludi was wearing protective armor, Silverback did not relent. He continued his relentless assault, throwing punch after punch. Ludi defended himself skillfully, but took another hit to the chest. Silverback then channeled his internal energy, pressing his hand forcefully against Ludi's armor. Ludi staggered, nearly falling over from the unexpected strength. In shock, Ludi exclaimed, "What is this martial art? It's so strange. I've never seen anything like it." Silverback paused his attack and responded, I don't know what this martial art is. It just came to me naturally." Ludi's eyes narrowed as he studied Silverback, realizing that this fight was unlike any he had ever faced before. The unpredictability and raw power of Silverback's attacks were formidable, and it was clear that this battle would push both warriors to their limits. Hidden and true identity. After observing Silverback's martial arts, swordsmanship, and dagger-throwing techniques, Ludi spoke up. "It seems that your master wants to conceal your true identity and keep you from knowing the truth. This could be part of a larger scheme. Remember what I've said today. It might help you in the future." With that, Ludi turned and walked away. Meanwhile, Wolfbane rushed to his brother Cobra's side, helping him sit up. He then angrily confronted Silverback. "Why did you let him go? Why didn't you kill him? He injured my brother. Didn't you see that?" Wolfbane shouted, his eyes blazing with fury. Silverback turned to look at Wolfbane. Ludi showed mercy and warned him to stop fighting, but he chose to continue. In our world, mercy is a rare thing. Wolfbane was infuriated by Silverback's words, perceiving them as callous indifference to Cobra's plight. Overcome with anger, Wolfbane drew his saber and attacked Silverback. Silverback deftly dodged, clearly reluctant to engage in combat with his comrade. But Wolfbane continued his ferocious assault, his strikes as relentless as a storm. Silverback sidestepped a downward slash aimed at his torso, grabbed Wolfbane's wrist with his right hand, and twisted it. Wolfbane cried out in pain, dropping his saber. Instantly, Silverback's left hand clamped around Wolfbane's neck, and he slammed him to the ground. "Are you really a match for me?" Silverback yelled. He chose to get hurt, but kept his dignity intact. "Do you understand that?" Releasing his grip on Wolfbane's neck, Silverback stepped back. The members of the 10 Great Assassins hurried over to help Cobra and prepare to return to their headquarters. As the group made their way back, the atmosphere was heavy with tension and unspoken questions. Wolfbane's anger simmered beneath the surface, while the other members of the 10 Great Assassins exchanged worried glances. The day's events had left everyone on edge, and the group's cohesion seemed to be fraying. Silverback led the way, his mind racing. Ludi's words echoed in his head, sowing seeds of doubt and confusion. Could there be more to his past than he knew? Was Eagle hiding something from him? These thoughts gnawed at him, but he pushed them aside, focusing on the immediate task of getting Cobra back to safety. Honor. Once they reached their headquarters, the members of the 10 Great Assassins set Cobra down gently and began tending to his wounds. Wolfbane, still seething with anger, glared at Silverback. "You just let him walk away. You let him insult us and injure my brother. How can you call yourself our leader?" he demanded. Silverback met Wolfbane's gaze calmly. "I let him go because killing him wouldn't have accomplished anything. Ludi showed us something today, Honor. He had the opportunity to finish Cobra off, but he chose not to. He respected our strength and our resolve. That kind of honor is rare in our world, and it's something we should respect in return." Wolfbane shook his head, unable to accept Silverback's reasoning. "Honor? What's honor worth when my brother lies injured? What kind of leader are you if you can't protect your own men?" Silverback's eyes hardened. "I am a leader who understands that strength isn't just about physical power. It's about knowing when to fight and when to show restraint. Ludi spared Cobra because he saw a warrior spirit in him. If we can't acknowledge that, then we're no better than the beasts we fight." Wolfbane's anger flared again, but before he could respond, one of the other members stepped forward. "Enough, both of you. We need to focus on Cobra's recovery and on planning our next move. Arguing among ourselves won't help." The room fell silent as everyone turned their attention back to Cobra. Despite the tension, they worked together to ensure their comrades' well-being. As the night wore on, Silverback found himself alone, reflecting on Ludi's words and the day's events.